Let me move us into another area, and that's on the James ossuary, to which you've already referred. This would be James, brother of Jesus. That ossuary was not found in the tomb.
That's right.
It is a very controversial ossuary, but the question is whether it could have been the so-called 10th ossuary that was in the tomb.
The missing one.
The missing one. You believe that it was, and you took...
No, I present a hypothesis. They're doing scientists at the Suffolk County Crime Lab in New York. Dr. Charles Pellegrino led that. Maybe the random sample is not sufficient. I did not use
You haven't allowed me to ask my question.
No, because you said that I believe that it was.
Oh, I thought you came to the conclusion after what the crime lab...
I feel it's very compelling, but
you said it's a match.
Absolutely, it matches, not in legal terms.
You said in the film.
No, Dr. Pellegrino said that.
Yeah, Dr. Pellegrino. Let's take a look at what in fact was shown in the film.
What I find interesting is the small trace materials that we are locating here, as opposed to the general limestone properties that you would expect to find. We're noticing iron, titanium, potassium, phosphorus, magnesium. So far, the elemental composition that we analyzed with this particular section of patina is consistent with the trace materials that we found in the James ossuary.
The signature is the same. It matches.
The patina samples from the Talpiot tomb match with the James ossuary.
That's what I was referring to when I said it was a match. Now, we called the Suffolk Crime Lab, and we spoke to Robert Jenner. And he said, and take a look up there, the elemental composition of some of the samples we tested from the ossuaries are consistent with each other, but I would never say they're a match. No scientist would ever say definitively that one ossuary came from the same tomb as another. We didn't do enough sampling to see if in fact there were other tombs that had similar elemental composition. The only samples we can positively say are a match from a single source are fingerprints and DNA. So can we at least say that using the term "it was a match" is a little bit excessive?
No, because Ted, as it turns out, I didn't know why he had sent me this. He sent me an email this morning. No, because Ted, as it turns out, I didn't know why he had sent me this. He sent me an email this morning. No, because Ted, as it turns out, I didn't know why he had sent me this. He sent me an email this morning, I guess after he knew that you would quote him in this way. And what he said is that the term does match, your suit matches. And there's the term match in a court of law. In a court of law, he said in this email, and I'll read some of it because you're quoting him.
Sure.
He said, we don't use match except for fingerprints and DNA. But he did say that the analysis that, I guess he knew you'd be quoting him, is consistent or similar. And he also said, this is a finding, a quote, that is reported out in the analysis and ultimately testified to in a court of law and accepted in the field as establishing a link between the samples. So what he's saying, there's no problem with establishing a link. Maybe the random samples are not enough. Absolutely, we invite people to do more random sampling. But he was talking about the technical term in the court of law, and after you interviewed him, obviously you felt bad.
I was concerned about that.
This
Sure.
email. So again, by the way, like you, I'm a journalist. All I'm doing is telling a very, very compelling story. I think every one of the points, as you're doing, and I think scientists should do this, with an open mind, they should go back to it. Maybe the DNA can be done better. Maybe they can get nuclear DNA instead of mitochondrial DNA. I agree with this process.
All we're really saying here is that if the implication, or if the inference that viewers drew was that because you went to the Suffolk County lab and they said that they are consistent, that the patina samples from the two
and
ossuaries
acceptable in the court of law as
are
evidence.
consistent evidence that they have similar properties, not that they came from the same tomb.
I think, Ted, it's like the Miriam Inu, the other woman. It's a series of things. If the time matches around 1980, if the dimensions match, and we remeasured it, they do. And then this becomes one more thing.
Well, the time obviously would match because there was only a relatively short period.
Actually, the Israelis are saying that this turns up in 202. I'm saying the time of the find matches
I see.
what we think has to do when this thing turned up. In other words, it's a series of about 5 things that become circumstantial. Whereas, let's say the patina hadn't matched at all, then you would say, well, we thought the dimensions were right.
Here's breaking news. I know if you like breaking news. This finding has now been introduced this week in the ongoing case of the James ossuary forgery, and will be introduced as evidence in Israel, in Jerusalem, in that ongoing trial.
So it'll be introduced as evidence that's not dispositive of anything.
No, it means that it's strong enough to be accepted as evidence, because
Gentlemen, forgive me, we're